You can go buy seeds or legumes from the bulk bin of a grocery store, and they could be 5 years old, and they may or may not germinate. So I made out a commitment that I wanted to get certified organic seeds that were tested for pathogens and also tested for germination rate, so that I would know that at least 80%, 85% of those seeds would germinate and turn into vegetables. And then I looked at, what people would use. And really, people were familiar with two kinds of sprouts in this country: alfalfa sprouts, because of the California sandwich, and mung bean sprouts because of Asian cuisine. But there were other things that I personally used that helped me survive and thrive, like lentil sprouts, which grow really fast, super nutritious. Green peas, which are used to make protein powders, and turns out green peas fresh are really expensive. But sprouted green peas are less expensive and more nutritious. And then, we talked about mung beans. Mung beans sprout really quickly, they're really delicious, and they are a powerhouse of energy. And then broccoli, it's a whole story about broccoli, that it was well known that cruciferous vegetables had anti-cancer properties. And in particular, broccoli seemed to have the most of these anti-cancer properties. And within the broccoli spectrum, there were varieties of broccoli, broccoli rabe, various types of broccoli. But it wasn't the type of broccoli that had the most healing properties. All broccoli was healthy. It turned out that it was the stage of the broccoli. So the seed itself contains the most of the glucosinolates. But the problem is, seeds have protective coatings on them. They have enzyme inhibitors. They have lectins. They have phytic acid in it. But when you soak and you germinate the seed, you remove the phytic acid, you lower the lectins, and you trigger this metamorphosis similar to that of a caterpillar into a butterfly. So when that metamorphosis occurs, you now are unleashing the potential of the sprout, and it is now a vegetable, not a seed. So in the case of the broccoli, on day 3, you have the most bioavailable of the anti-cancer properties of the glucoraphanin. And this is another little backstory. I ordered broccoli seeds from many, many vendors, and I sent them to the lab because I talk about this and I research this. And some of them had low, some of them had medium, some had a little bit more, but it was striking to me that one of the vendors had no glucosinolates in the broccoli. And I'm scratching my head and said, how could this be? And they said, well, look, we tested, we double tested. So I sent it to another lab, and they sequenced the DNA of the broccoli seed. And they said, well, it's in the Brassica family. It looks like a broccoli seed, but it's not broccoli. And that was like, well, how can you tell? Because, the seeds all look the same. So that's when I added another level, of testing to get the seeds that I knew were the right varietals and that also had the highest levels of the glucosinolates and healing properties. So when we look at sprouts, this is something that is August 13, 2025. I can tell you that every year in the last 5 years since the Sprout book came out, more and more people are sprouting at double-digit rates. And, I will leave you with the fact that you can grow sprouts without soil, sunshine, or fertilizer on your kitchen countertop in days for under $1 a serving, and it takes about 2 minutes in the morning and 2 minutes at night to simply rinse your seeds and rinse your sprouts. And you can taste it, you can feel it, and you deserve it. Like, if you're watching this, anyone who's watching this has already won the ovarian lottery. Like, you are here, you have freedom, you have agency. And one of the things, the big complaints that people would tell me about the vegan diet was that it was inaccessible, that it was expensive, and it didn't work for them. And every single person that I've spoken to that said the vegan diet didn't work for them or was too expensive was not committed and didn't do it right. So if you're doing a whole food, plant-based, vegan, mostly raw, with sprouts, without a lot of frankenfoods, without the oils, without the salts, without the sweeteners, and you are consuming enough calories, it works. It works. I'm going to be 60 years old, and I feel like I was when I joined the Army at 17. So I've got the most energy, the most clarity, the most cognition, and also I feel good, not just physically, but I feel that I'm doing the right thing for the planet, for myself, for the family, for the animals. Like, it's just win, 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 win. So if you guys want to ask any questions, I'm happy to answer. And I feel grateful that I was tuned in to be part of this vegan wellness retreat. And I commend every one of you that showed up, for this lecture, because this will change your life. Yes, in the back.
Hello, hi. My name's Linda. I have 2 questions for you. Do you make raw dressings to go over your sprouts? That's the first question. Or do you just eat them as is? And then if you could take us through a day of your diet. I'm just curious what you eat through the day.
Yeah, great question, Linda. So I like, I'm trained now to eat things that are raw and unseasoned, and I have no aversion to them. And I'm also human, so if there's a nice dressing there, I will lean towards the dressing. My go-to dressings are tahini with a ferment like sauerkraut, or I will use a puree of berries and something low glycemic with a little water just to make them more interesting. What cuts through the bitterness of the sprouts, if they're bitter or spicy, is a fat, right? So if I'm going to use a fat, it's going to be tahini, or it's going to be avocados, or I will eat it with fresh olives. When it comes to my personal diet, it's 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. I generally start to eat around 12 noon, and I usually break my intermittent fast with fruit. It's the summer now, so that would be melon. I might eat a whole 10-pound, 12-pound melon without any aversion to it. I like the water, I like the flavor, I like the antioxidant. Midday, 2 or 3 in the afternoon, I will have a different fruit, whatever it is that's available. I don't buy the propaganda that's coming out that organic's not better. I still am very true to organic. So I will eat, whether it's grapes or cherries or a different type of melon, but I'm eating a lot. When I grew up, relatively poor, my mother would ration the cherries, and you'd get, 10 cherries or 12 cherries. Now I might eat a whole pound of cherries or a whole pound of grapes without any aversion. And then around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, I will eat a mega sprout salad with 3 or 4 different types of sprouts, with or without a dressing. I don't know how the philosophy is there. I like fermented foods. I like sauerkraut. I like fermented pickles. I like the brine, even though it's higher salt than is probably good for most people's heart in it. I've experimented with making sauerkraut using celery juice, but it's easier to do with salt. But I'll make a big sprout salad, and I will add to it multiple types of seaweed. So I like nori, I like wakame, and I've recently started consuming marine phytoplankton, which is an algae source of omega-3s, EPA, and DHA, and that's just because I'm experimenting with it. And then, probably every 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, I will supplement with a B12 supplement sublingually, and otherwise that's it for me.
Thank you.
So, yes.
Question. My name is Julia. So I started sprouts last March, first time. And it was broccoli sprouts and some alfalfa and radishes, I think. So, but I will say, I think my digestion wasn't the best with the sprouts. Will you say that I need time with the sprouts, slowly introduce it to myself, or I don't know?
Well, it's a couple of things. One is that they are very potent food. So, a lot has to do with what else is in your diet and how you're eating them. And then also, you really have to honor the sprouts and chew them well, because they are very, they're powerhouses. So you want to, digestion to me begins with the eyes, and then you want to really chew them well, mix them with your saliva, and then go in. And depending on what else is in your diet, you don't want to mix sprouts with sweet fruit. The sprout should really go with other vegetables, or with fatty plants like avocado, olives, or tahini.
Yeah, I put mangoes with them.
Yeah, that's going to create flatulation and other parts.
Okay.
You can have a little bit of mango if you want to make a little juice, or salad dressing with the mango, you could. But eating a mango and sprouts, your body's going to be like, hey, I've never seen sprouts growing out of a mango, in your gut. So it's going to be hard to digest.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yes?
Hi, I'm Nikki. I'm wondering what kind of information is in your book?
So the book is why sprouting, how to sprout, and 40 recipes about sprouts, and then a breakdown of, unique benefits